My goal today is to convince you to write a love letter. And while I am a romantic at heart, this isn't your typical love letter I'm inviting you to write. First, the recipient doesn't have to be a sweetheart. It can be a sibling, a child, even a dear friend. Because the person you're going to be writing is the person in this world that you love the most. Who do you think of when I say that? Who is the person in this world that you love the most? Can you picture them in your mind? The second reason this isn't going to be your typical love letter is the subject matter. Instead of telling your beloved just how great and wonderful they are, you're going to be going a lot deeper than that. Because this is your last love letter. This is your last testament before dying. This is the last chance to tell your beloved what matters most in this life and what they should be living for. And you want to tell them the truth because you love them. I'm asking you to do this today because I have done it and it has changed my life. It has helped me to stop wasting the most precious resource I own and we as humans own, and that's our time. And by wasting our time, all I mean is in many ways, we don't live our lives in a fashion that reflects and furthers our own deeply held values and beliefs. And therefore, we're wasting that one thing we cannot reproduce and we can't buy any more of, and that's our time. Of course, the problem with wasting your time is you get to the end of your life and you have all this regret. It's a principle. And it's a principle I was powerfully reminded of just recently when I read an article by Bronnie Ware titled The Regrets of the Dying. You see, Bronnie was a nurse in Australia to folks who had come home to die. She was with them the last 3 to 12 weeks of their lives. And as part of her therapy with them, she would often ask them, "Do you wish you'd have done something differently?" And what Bronnie found is in the 8 years of nursing the dying, her patients had lots of regrets. And these regrets seemed to center around certain themes. And I was so powerfully struck by her article, I want to share a few of those themes with you. First, dreams. Bronnie's patients regretted not chasing their dreams. It was the most common regret they had. Only at the end of life, where they no longer had the health to pursue their dreams, are they filled with deep sorrow because they knew they had never gone for it. And the reason they had never gone for it was because of a decision they had made or they had failed to make. Work. Bronnie's patients deeply regretted spending so much time working. All her male patients had this regret. They regretted missing the youth of their children and the companionship of a spouse. Every male patient Bronnie had deeply, deeply regretted having worked so hard. Finally, friends. Bronnie's patients regretted losing touch with close friends. Her patients talked about these golden relationships that in the busyness of life just somehow kind of slip by. Bronnie says at the end, all her patients cared about was love and relationships. That in the final weeks of their lives, all they cared about was love and relationships. When I hear the words of Bronnie's patients, they ring true to me. I think her patients are being honest. And it only makes logical sense to me that the closer we come to our death, the more honest we become about this life. So what do we do about it? How do we get the proper perspective on this life now before we're on our deathbed? How do we get the proper perspective on this life now while we have the health and the ability to do something about it? We do it by writing a last love letter to our beloved and telling them what matters most in this life and what they should be living for. As I mentioned before, I'm asking you to do this because I have done it and it has changed my life. I wrote my letter in Baghdad, Iraq, while I was a soldier in the United States Army. And I want to share with you today one of the events that compelled me to write this letter. It was December 10th, 2005. I was with my good friend, Captain Step Knowlton, after work, in his trailer, and we were just hanging out. And all of a sudden, we hear the sound of one of our 50 caliber tower guards really laying into a target. Now, this is Iraq, and the sound of 50 caliber machine gun is not a uncommon thing at that time, so we didn't think a whole lot of it. But what was interesting this night is that the 50 cal just kept firing and firing, and then it seemed to be joined by other 50 caliber tower guards at other places along the perimeter of Camp Victory. And the sound was so loud and took place so long that we decided to go outside and see what was going on. And when I went outside that night, I saw something I'll never forget for the rest of my life. The sky was alive with purple and green tracer rounds. The sounds of machine gun fire and rifle fire was bouncing off every single surface. And as I looked into the sky, I saw that the fire was coming from a 180-degree arc from here to here. We were literally surrounded by the sights and sounds of war. I looked down, and all of a sudden I realized that I'm not standing alone, that there's a bunch of other soldiers standing all around me, all not saying a word, but all thinking the very same thing. And that is the surgeons are finally trying to do it. They're trying to topple Camp Victory. Because of Camp Victory, our base, because of its strategic importance as the operational headquarters of the war, we were always under threat of attack. But after being in Baghdad for almost 11 months, we learned to just kind of dismiss this threat. You know, we thought there's too many of us. We all have an M16 on our back. It would be a suicide mission. But that's what appeared was happening. And because the fire was emanating from 180 degrees from both sides of our compound, it meant it was going to be a complex, well-organized attack. And as I looked at these sights and sounds of war and taking it in, all of a sudden I heard it. I'm good. And that was the whiz of a bullet passed right by my head, impacted within meters. I yelled at my buddy, "Knowlton, get down!" All 6'4" of that Wisconsin Badger hit the ground, started running. Soldiers were ducking, taking cover everywhere. We make it back to Knowlton's trailer. Knowlton throws on his body armor and his Kevlar. I look for his roommate's body armor and Kevlar. I can't find it anywhere. And as I'm laying on the floor of the trailer on my stomach with only my M16 in my hand, my mind is racing. As I mentioned before, by this time we'd been in Baghdad almost 11 months. It was just 1 month before I was supposed to go home. 1 month before I was going to be reunited with my wife and my baby girl. And the insurgents were trying it. Bad guys were going to be coming inside the wire, and it was about to get really ugly. And as I lay on the floor of that trailer, my mind reeling with the imminent fears of combat, my mind all of a sudden switched from the temporal to the eternal. And I began to pray. I said, "Lord Jesus, please protect those tower guards that seem like they're being overrun by the enemy. Please protect them. Help them to do their duty. At the same time, help me to do my duty. Somehow help me to muster the courage to do whatever I need to do in the next minute and the next 3 minutes to serve well. But at the same time, please protect me. Please let me come home to my wife and my baby girl." This is the hard part. And on the floor of the trailer, I prayed this. I said, "But Lord, if it is not your will that I come home, somehow welcome me into your kingdom and compensate my wife and my baby girl for the loss of a loving husband and father." And as I finished praying on the floor of that trailer, trying to get ready for what would happen next, all of a sudden I heard this noise. And it was from our loudspeakers that we had installed all over post. And it came on and it said, Camp Victory, you are not under attack. You are not under attack. Take cover and remain there." I look at Knowlton. What do you mean we're not under attack? Sure enough, comes on a couple minutes later, says it again. Camp Victory, you are not under attack. You are not under attack. Take cover and remain there." Knowlton and I are looking at each other. It looks like World War III outside, and this guy's saying we're not under attack. And I don't know if you can actually get a lawful order from a speaker system in Baghdad, Iraq. So, I guess if you can, maybe we violated it. Because we decided to get up from that trailer and make our way to the 2-mile hike to the command center and find out what is going on. And the second we walk in that command center, the second we walk in, I run to my good friend, Captain Chris Mack. And he goes, guys, did you see all that craziness out there? It's like, you'll never believe it. Iraq just beat Syria in soccer. All that craziness is celebratory gunfire. Knowlton and I did like you guys, right? I mean, we smiled, and then we started laughing, and it became the funniest story of the entire deployment. But it had a serious side, because 8 people on post were injured by this celebratory gunfire, including a captain and colleague of mine, took a bullet right to the side of the head, barely missed losing an eye by a few centimeters. But for me, it also had a serious side, because I could not forget what it was like to lie on the floor of that trailer and cry out to God. I couldn't forget what it was like to lie on the floor of that trailer and have deep regret, knowing that I had not lived my life in accordance to my values and beliefs. So what did I do about it? Well, I turned this journal I'd been keeping in Iraq into my book. It's titled Because of Baghdad: What a Father Would Say About Life If He Didn't Come Home to Say It. And friends, the truth about my book, all it is a last love letter to my daughter. It might be a long one, but it's just a last love letter to my daughter, telling her what matters most in this life and what she should be living for. This is funny to me. I don't know if it would be funny to you, but I wrote this book, and of course, I'm super proud of myself for writing this book. It's awesome, right? But somewhere along the way, I got this interesting idea that maybe I needed to take my own advice, right? Like, physician, heal thyself. That if these are the words I would leave with my daughter before dying, then maybe they're words I should be living by every single day. So I've implemented some very specific action steps in my life to make sure that I live my what matters most. And I want to give you a glimpse into what that looks like for us. First, it means 2 dates a week. I have 2 dates a week with my wife, and we calendar the time. Why do we do this? We do this because in the busyness of raising 4 kids and a demanding career, it is really easy to lose touch with each other. I see it in my peers. I see it happening all the time. We don't want to lose touch. We want to get closer. My wife matters most. So we have 2 dates a week. TV. I cut off all cable TV in my house. I don't even have the rabbit ear kind of thing, so you can do old school TV. Why did we do this? We did this because I love watching TV. I love watching golf and football, and I would spend a lot of my available time on weekends watching these things instead of watching my 4 little kids play. And I came to realize that my 4 little kids need to see my eyes looking into their eyes and not into some screen. My kids matter most, so we cut off TV. Finally, my wife and I, we choose to live simply. We live well beneath our means. Why do we do that? We do it because I know it's really easy for me to ramp up our lifestyle and my lifestyle to become these golden handcuffs, tying me to a job that I don't want to do to pay for a bunch of stuff that doesn't even make me happy. I don't want to be slave to my stuff. Work-life balance. Work-life balance matters most to us, so we choose to live simply. Now, please hear me on this. I'm not asking you today to implement these specific action steps into your life. We're all different people, right? We're all different people. And plus, what kind of sane person turns off TV, right? That's not sane. But here's what I am asking you to do. I'm asking you to believe in the process and come to understand that it is the antidote to a life of regret. And the process is just 3 simple things. 3 simple things. Number 1, write a last love letter to your beloved, telling them what matters most in this life and what they should be living for. Number 2, read your own letter. And then 3, follow your own advice. If you will decide today to do these 3 simple things, if you'll make that decision today, I promise you, your older self will thank you for it one day. And if you're super courageous and you want to go put a stamp on that letter and put it in the mail, when your beloved receives it, I promise you they'll thank you too. It's been an honor to be on this stage and speak to you today. Thank you for your time.